light goes on.
No.
It's on. Let's call this meeting to order of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Planning and Building Committee. Today is Tuesday, August 28th. Could we have a roll call, please?
Crawford.
Here.
McGillivray.
Here.
Dwyer.
Here.
Teets isn't here yet. Jackson.
Here.
Whitebird.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could we have a motion to approve the previous minutes, August 14th? Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner McGillivray. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passed. Could we have approval of today's agenda? Moved by Commissioner Dwyer, supported by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passed. Any public comment today? See no members of the public wishing to make comment, we'll move off public comment on to today's regular agenda. And the first item is Water Resources Commissioner request for a not to exceed $45,000 loan from the long-term revolving fund for the 5 Points Drain Emergency Pipe Repair Project. I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner McGillivray. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Mike McMahon, Chief Engineer at the Water Resources Commissioner's Office, and this is Jeff Wilson.
Good morning. Yep.
My engineers that work on the drains. And as you summarized there in the intro, we are here seeking financing for an emergency repair that was done on one of our Chapter 4 drains. I'm going to let Jeff give you some of the details on that and answer the questions. Jeff.
Yeah, so this is a emergency repair situation where a pipe had collapsed underneath a busy intersection and had warranted an expensive repair. What made it expensive was the fact that we were working in live traffic and under heavy pavement and in fairly deep conditions. And this is an assessment district that is responsible for the maintenance of the pipe. The assessment district does include Oakland Township and the Road Commission for Oakland County. But to help out the residents that were faced with this unexpected assessment, we're requesting a 5-year loan to pay it back in installments to ease the burden on the residents. And there is a summary of the amounts that they would be responsible for without the loan, and what we're proposing to try to get it to help them out on this emergency repair.
Any questions? Commissioner Jackson.
And the residents that are impacted and affected, what city?
This is in Oakland Township, and it's all properties right around the intersection of Adams Road and Orion Road.
So what, any other questions?
So
So,
that's like Rochester Hills?
Yeah, northwest of Rochester Hills, so between downtown Rochester and Lake Orion.
I saw your memo, it said it was 250 feet long pipe, or?
Correct.
And 12 inches, and there's no boring, I mean, you had to go through the road, and?
There actually was some, so it began as a essentially bypass construction. So there was a spot in the pipe that had failed. It was about 13 feet deep. And so we had attempted to dig down to that spot to repair it. But that was unsuccessful. There were a lot of utilities in the way. There was a lot of groundwater that made it difficult to excavate in this area, and it was right off the pavement edge. And so we actually at first had constructed a bypass around this spot and essentially made that the new permanent route of the drain. But in getting around this spot, we had found out that just upstream of that point, there was then another break in the pipe that was directly under the pavement. And so we had actually been able to repair that without digging up the pavement. So that upstream section, we were able to do a method called pipe bursting, where what you do is you essentially pull a cable through an existing pipe. The shape of the existing pipe, mind you that it's essentially partially collapsed, but we were able to pull a cable through it and pull a new pipe behind that cable, so it burst the pipe. the existing pipe, and in its place, it pulls a brand-new pipe in there. So now we have brand-new pipe underneath the road. And it was constructed in a manner where we didn't have to dig up the whole intersection, because that would have been very disruptive. And so we did it over several months in the summer of 2017, but really it was essentially two-week projects, and then some investigative time in between.
And is the pipe, is it a sleeve, or is it's a brand new pipe? And
It's a brand new, essentially plastic pipe. It's a thick plastic. It's called high density polyethylene, and it has essentially the same lifespan as a concrete pipe. It's a very, very good, strong pipe, and it's long lasting.
Any other questions? And so we're helping the residents. Our long-term revolving
That's correct.
has funds, sufficient funds in it, and the residents got a little shock. Did they get a notice that they were gonna be?
That's correct. So when the emergency repair was taking place, we sent them a letter just saying, hey, you're in this assessment district, we're doing work, we don't have a cost yet, but we're working to relieve this emergency situation. And then after things were finalized and we were closer to a final number, we sent them a letter saying, here's what you're gonna owe. We are attempting to get a 5-year loan for this, and we'll update them with a letter once the board either approves or denies the loan.
And all the time periods didn't pass. That's a no.
Correct.
Any other questions? Let's call roll.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
Teets.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Whitebird.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 is the Water Resources Commissioner interjurisdictional property insurance agreement with the Village of Bingham Farms. Need a motion by Commissioner Dwyer, supported by Commissioner Crawford. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tim Prince. I'm Chief Manager for Water Resource Commissioner's Office. This is Kelsey Cook, Senior Attorney. Later in the agenda, we're going to talk about some new water and sewer agreements for Farmington Hills. And as part of that process, not only with Farmington Hills, but with all the other communities we operate and maintain, one of the first steps we took is we went back and we started looking at property insurance for all of these different water and sewer systems. So the property insurance I'm referring to is like on the water side, we're talking about water tanks and booster stations and pumping stations and those kinds of things. On the sewer side, we're talking about lift stations, pumping stations, those kinds of things. So the property that could be damaged as a result of lightning or a car or that kind of thing. So we worked our way through all the different water and sewer systems. We found out that most of the communities were carrying their own property insurance, so we really didn't need to intercede and do anything. In the case of Bingham Farms, very small community, don't really have the wherewithal to go out and get property insurance. We basically do everything for them as far as operations and maintenance and take care of their system for them. So they ask us to go ahead and carry the property insurance for them. So that's what this request is for.
Yeah. Commissioner McGilvery.
Does Bingham Farms reimburse the county then? Or?
Yes, then they pay that out of the system funds. It's collected through the water and sewer rates, and yeah.
Okay.
And it's only a marginal increase, right? It's not
Yeah, it's very small. Yeah.
spread across.
Yeah, they just have one small pump station, so it's very minimal.
Okay. Any other questions? In general, what kind of claims have come up and been reimbursed?
They're few and far between, but usually, again, it's like a lightning damage or some kind of a power surge that causes problems with the pump or that kind of thing. We had a pump station that was off the road a little ways, and a car ran off the road and hit the control panel on it. So those are the kinds of things, but they're really few and far between. But for a small community like Bingham Farms, it makes sense to have it so that if something big hits, they don't have a whole lot of funds, and it covers that.
And the policies are such that lightning and acts of God are covered?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. And I was wondering about when a car crashes into something, do you guys coordinate?
Yeah, you try and
Subrogate
collect what you
bids.
can from the car insurance or whatever, but then, a lot of times doesn't pan out. So we gotta end up picking up the cost, or the community does.
Any other questions? Let's call the roll.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Commissioner
Thank you.
Jackson, sorry.
How many other, small, cities do we carry insurance for? Is this the only one?
Well, we've gone through all the other systems that we operate, maintain, and so far this is the only one. There's a couple others that are sort of out there right now that are basically reviewing it and trying to determine, do we want you guys to do it, or, should we go out and do it ourselves? So we may be back, one or two more times with these other communities that are still evaluating it. But, so I'm going to venture to say there might be 3 or 4 that we would come back to you on, and then the rest of them, which would be, 10 or 11, all carry their own.
Just follow up with Commissioner Jackson. Did you, as you're going through all the communities, did you send out a notice saying, do you have insurance in place and can we work with you? Or is that?
Yeah, that's essentially what we did. And it was initially an email, but it ended up being a follow-up conversation with each one of it. It ended up, in a lot of cases, meetings with the communities to explain it to them and that kind of thing. So it was a little longer process than just,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's great that we're working with all our communities. Thank you for bringing that up.
And my
Commissioner
thinking
Jackson.
was, just going back to, Greencastle subdivision and, issues that had come up and, the residents complaining about the insurance, company that was involved with, potential claims, on their property. In that case, that insurance is not provided by the that was not provided by the Water Resources Commission. That's why I asked how many cities. They get their own, through Farmington Hills because it's a larger city.
Yes, so in the case of Farmington Hills, they secured their own property insurance, yes. Because they have an engineering department, they have staff, and they can do those kinds of things. So that's one of the things we did do with Farmington Hills, followed up with them on the property insurance.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Let's call roll.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Teets,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Lightbert,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the Water Resources Commissioner, City of Farmington Hills Water System Operation and Maintenance Agreement. Moved by Commissioner Dwyer, supported by Commissioner Jackson. Good morning again.
Yes, so I'll just give a real brief introduction, then Kelsey will provide you with some more details. So we're in the process of working with Corporation Counsel and reviewing all the operations and maintenance contracts we have in place right now. So we've come in the case of Royal Oak Township, we have a new water and sewer agreement with Royal Oak Township. We came in and presented that several months ago. Also Oakland Township took over ownership of that system, and we have a new water contract with Oakland Township. And we're working our way through the rest of the communities that we operate and maintain. In the case of Farmington Hills, the sewer contract dates back all the way to 1963. So it's a very old contract, and there's a lot of provisions that were missing in there. The scope of work wasn't accurate, and there was a lot of other things that we had to sort of work through with Farmington Hills, including some insurance issues and that kind of thing. So Kelsey will provide you with a little more detail, but I wanted to sort of give you that background because you'll probably see us again as we work through some of these other communities.
So in regard to the Farmington Hills Water System Operation and Maintenance Agreement, the contract that the City of Farmington Hills did approve was negotiated over the past year between our office, Corporation Counsel, and the city. And so it does, as Tim mentioned, provide a much more comprehensive scope of services to the services that we actually do provide for the city. It's very specific as to the fact that every cost is enterprise cost, so it would go back to the City of Farmington Hills water system. It does not, it's revenue neutral to the county, and we operate the city's water system on a nonprofit basis. So those terms are very specific in the contract. The contract also provides for the fact that there is this option, which has actually been secured for general liability as well as professional liability insurance coverage. The county is protected under both of those policies for operating and maintaining the city's water system. And then the city of Farmington Hills also chose to pay an additional annual premium to become a named insured on that policy. So if a claim is made against the city, they're also covered for general liability. So this is bodily injury or property damage that results from our operation and maintenance of their system. And so that is spelled out in the contract as well. As long as they continue to pay the annual premium, they'll continue to be a named insured and have that protection. So that insurance is really for more catastrophic types of scenarios. It has a $250,000 self-insured retention. So the city would need to spend that $250,000 first, which could be spent in just legal fees, and then the policy coverage could be implicated at that time. So it's a good option for the city. It's great for the county. It allows us to do the work and serve the city as we have always done, but now under a contract that specifies a lot more detail and goes into basically covering everything that we needed to cover to protect both parties.
That's great. Question? Commissioner McGilvery.
Yeah, Farmington Hills is a pretty large city for the county to operate a water and sewer system. Tell me again how we got to that position. Usually when a city becomes a city, they hire their own people to run their water and sewer departments. And I'm just curious why Farmington.
It really dates back to, like I said, like on the sewer side, 1963, and I think the water was sort of the same time frame. And that's when the infrastructure was built out. So the interceptors that carry the flow down to Great Lakes water system were installed at that time. And then infrastructure within the communities was built at that same time also. And so way back then, they were very small. They didn't have the wherewithal to operate, maintain the water and sewer system. So the thought was, hey, you built this infrastructure, you put it in, you're aware of it, we'll have you operate and maintain it. And ever since that time, we've continued to operate and maintain it. Obviously, it's grown and it's expanded, and there's a lot more infrastructure now. But obviously, they like the way it's working. They can focus on their roads and other issues within the city, and they can have us focus on the water and sewer. I think the value we bring is we have a lot of expertise because we're doing it for a lot of different communities, and I think there's a value there, and so they continue to have us do that.
We do this for other cities as well?
Yes, yes.
What cities, I'm curious?
Let me see, I've got a list here.
So we've got Farmington Hills, Oakland Township, Royal Oak Township, Oxford Township, Highland Township water only. City of Farmington, just some of their system. It's not the entire system, and that's sewer only. Franklin Village, which is a grinder pump system. Wall Lake and Novi, part of Wall Lake and Novi, their sanitary systems tributary to a plant that the county owns. Commerce and White Lake, tributary to Commerce Township's wastewater treatment plant. Kego Harbor, Bloomfield Hills, Bingham Farms, Lake Orion, sewer only, Beverly Hills, Orchard Lake, and that's about it.
That's quite a few.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
I wasn't aware of that, so.
That's why it's such a big operation. There's something. Any, no other questions, let's call the roll.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Teets,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Whitebird.
Yes.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Item number 4 is on the other side of the
So we'll
Water
turn that
Resources
over.
Commissioner, City of Farmington Hills Sewer System Operation and Maintenance Agreement. I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Jackson, supported by Commissioner Dwyer.
So this contract is very similar to the water contract that was just presented, only the scope of services is different, obviously. But all the same protections, also including the insurance and who's responsible for what, are all also covered in this sewer system contract with the City of Farmington Hills.
Well, that means we just had this item, so. Any other questions? Commissioner Jackson.
Has the city approved these contracts? Does it go before the city council?
Yes, yep, and the City Council did approve it unanimously.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I mean, I know all the contracts dated, from 63 and amendments after amendments after amendments. How long have you been working on cleaning these up?
I have been involved for the past 2 years, I would say. Farmington Hills, I know we have been negotiating with them for a new contract for probably longer than that. But this specific contract, we probably worked on for about a year.
Okay. And there's not to it. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Let's call the roll.
Teets,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
Whitebird.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 5 is Facilities Management Intergovernmental Support Agreement, IGSA, for the Landscape Services Army Reserve Center at 2650 Watkins Lake Road in Waterford, Michigan. Need a motion? Moved by Commissioner Teets, supported by Commissioner McGilvray.
Good morning. Paul
Good morning.
Zackos, Property Manager with Facilities with Art Holdsworth, Director. How are you?
Good, thank you.
This situation goes back to a land lease that the Army has for their property for their reserve center. And that land lease goes back to the late 60s. And I think they signed a 50-year agreement for that. In that agreement, the Army pretty much is a net. They cover all their property. In the past, they do this contracting on a national basis, and some of these landscape contractors, they bid it nationally and then they subcontract with a local company. So what we found is over the past couple of years, all of a sudden their landscaping wasn't being taken care of to the standard that it was supposed to, and Waterford Township would send us a violation of their ordinance, and that was the first notice we got. As I looked into it and talked to one of their local property managers, and then they referred to what they call the 88th, which is out in Wisconsin. They determined that some of these local contractors don't get paid because the national contractor ran out of money or whatever. So the county has a clause in that land lease to take over the landscaping, which Facilities did last year. And then we got to talking with them, well, why don't we just do that, all of your landscaping? Because it seems like that would be a good fit, and it would make better standards on their property going forward. And they liked that idea. So we worked out, this is their agreement to work out just the landscape services. And in fact, it saves them, they've determined that it saves them money because it's a cost neutral for the county, but compared to their contract, it saves them money. So as I talked with Art and the other FMO managers, it turned out to be something that is going to be advantageous.
Any questions? This sounds like a great idea, that there's so much level of bureaucracy
Yes.
going to federal or the Army, moving down, that it was probably naturally gonna happen that they subcontract, and it wasn't getting done, and we've got the ability to do it, and it's.
And we have higher standards, as I learned from Mark Baldwin. The standards of maintenance are much higher than a lot of these private landscape contractors.
That's great. Any other questions? Let's call roll.
Jackson,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
Teets,
Yes.
Whitebird.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The last item is Department of Facilities Management approval and acceptance of the joint project agreement with the U.S. Department of Commerce for use of space located in Annex 1 building. Need a motion? Moved by Commissioner Teets, supported by Commissioner Jackson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This really kind of comes under my bailiwick. Interesting comment on the previous agenda item. I remember working on that some 20 years ago and helping locate them in that facility. So, you know, it's pretty cool stuff that comes around. This is really a joint project agreement. You've seen this before with the U.S. Department of Commerce. They're in Annex 1, and they're really a part of our business development and business retention efforts. Other than an office in Detroit and Grand Rapids, you know, we're the only one to have something We have a third office. So we work very closely with them, both on helping companies understand exporting and also with some trade missions. They're also very involved with Automation Alley, and that part of Automation Alley that focuses on taking small businesses abroad to various trade shows. So I got to thank Mr. Zachos and Art for working this up, and I think we're actually ahead of schedule, or on schedule.
Right.
Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, this will come through
Yes.
on other years.
The Department of Commerce, I was told, only allows a 1-year agreement, so it has to come up every year. And we try to start 3 months in advance because of their timeline usually is longer. So next year I'm going to start 6 months in advance.
Any questions? Well, it's great, and, you know, this, the in-kind is, we're reaping benefits from having them there.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Crawford.
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes.
Dwyer.
Yes.
Teeds.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Whiteford.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have communications, we have the airport committee minutes. I need a motion to receive and file. Moved by Commissioner McGilvray, supported by Commissioner Crawford. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And seeing no other business, we are adjourned.